from 2-0 down, you don't ever turn your nose up at a 2-2, especially when the equaliser's that late. If we've got that back, for as crap as this game of football was in large parts, that's definitely something to pick up, put in the bottle and carry forward with.
You can't say that they're not fighting for each other after that.
Are we impressing? Are we entertaining? Are we everything that we hope that we will be 30 games down the line? No, we're not.
If we're not going to get any worse, and there's only improvements to come, and it's a big if, then the only way is up from there.
If we beat Stevenage on Saturday, we're 3 points behind them and they're second. The Town rescued a point in a 2-2 draw at Bloomfield Road against Blackpool on Tuesday night as we, came away with a point that maybe some thought we didn't deserve. We'll discuss whether that was the case or not. Alongside me, I've got the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe. Jimbo, deserved, not deserved?
We'll find out.
Right after this intro. Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast, having scooped bronze in the Best Football League podcast category in the Football Content Awards. This season, the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned prior to the intro, we're looking back on a pretty weird and wacky night of football actually at Bloomfield Road, as Blackpool and Luton drew 2-2, and I've got Jimbo alongside me as always. Jimbo, I've done the instant reaction, and as I said after the game, I don't really know what I made of it. It was kind of a weird one to grab a hold of. What were your, there's no point in giving me your immediate thoughts. What are your thoughts 24 hours later?
Terrible for 25 minutes. Got a bit more of a foothold into the game, but weren't necessarily cutting up trees. Fashioned a couple of sort of half chances.
Or earning trees for that matter at that point.
Well, yes, exactly, in the green kit. Yeah, they finished better in the first half, but the second half pretty much started the same as the first. Very lackluster, and obviously got caught. And at that point, they weren't showing enough for me that I thought they'd get back into it. There's written evidence where I said that, where you can go back and say, well, that didn't age well, and it's true, but I don't care because it came out all right. But once the subs happened, sort of, with half an hour, 35 minutes to go, things started to change. Those players made an impact. And where I'm from, in my day, if you were 2-0 down, you came back from 2-0 down to draw 2-2 with a goal in the last minute. You take that and you use it as some sort of positive. You can pick holes in bits and pieces if you want, and there are plenty that are. You can be team papering over the cracks, or you can be team positive. I think somewhere in the middle, unfortunately. But ultimately, you got something out of a game where for an hour I thought they wouldn't get anything.
Yeah, I think it's a fair assessment. Jimbo's caught the man flu, so if you're on the audio and he sort of fades away a little bit, no sympathy, but that's the reason why.
I'm soldiering on. Brave little soldier.
You are indeed, yeah. Don't worry about those of us that got in at 2:30 this morning and things like that. Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, in no way, shape or form was the first 20 minutes good enough. But I've got people on my social media and I've got people WhatsApping me saying this is no better than Lincoln. I wasn't sat there thinking this is as bad as Lincoln.
That's nonsense reactionary stuff. It was nowhere near as bad as Lincoln. Nowhere near. And I think that there's people who I think are just determined to be relentlessly miserable. Some of it, a lot of it, it wasn't good. But if you played not good and then play okay for a tiny proportion of the game and you manage to get something out of it, take that, bank it, move on.
Yeah, that's right. I wasn't sat there on the flip side of that thinking I was sat there watching PSG from last season or anything like that. I'm fully aware of what we were watching, but Maybe some of this is down to us, Jimbo, because we kind of reflected on Blackpool's last 6 games in the preview, where they'd only scored 2 goals in those 6 games. We didn't really give enough credit to their home form, which apart from the defeat on the opening day of the season, they're unbeaten since then. They've seen off Huddersfield and a couple of other half-decent sides. So maybe some of that was on us. But by the same token, we were bad for 20 minutes in that first half, particularly bad in that first 20 minutes. They came out all guns blazing. Look, we shouldn't really laud that up. You should expect that from a home side in a midweek game in particular, to come out all guns blazing. And obviously the first goal was annoying to the extreme. Listen, we are going to have to put up until we've got someone who is genuinely able to play right back as a natural position. We're going to have to put up with the goals that we concede down that side. It's just the nature of the beast. In much the same way that had we have kept with the back three, we were going to have to keep on putting up with goals in behind Merely Ali, because he hasn't got a defensive mindset, because he was out of position. What we kind of hope going forward is that everyone doesn't really notice it, and we can sort that out, or we get a right back quicker than we kind of hope. But I mean, Chris just gone with the wrong runner, hasn't he? Mads has got that guy. You don't need to go with him either, Chris. He's not a right back. I can understand why he's done it, but he's left Hamilton with half of Lancashire to that side. And then by the time he's got back over to him, how's your Donald? The shot goes through his legs. He should still be bailed out by the keeper. Listen, I don't need to call out Kearley for that first one. You could see by his reaction, he knew that he should have saved it. And of course, he should have saved it. But as I said, while we haven't got a natural right back there, we are vulnerable in that area, but we're going to have to accept that, because this formation gives us so much more, which we'll obviously come on to in a minute.
Yeah, and it did eventually. And if you want to hang on to the first 20 minutes and say it was woeful and they haven't got a clue and all that stuff, I don't know. I don't know what to say. You can view it as that, and it was that. I'm not taking that away from you. It was that terrible, but the ending was good, wasn't it? And sometimes it's not how you start; it's how you end.
Well, yeah, and as people wanted to take me back to Lincoln, let's take you back to Lincoln then. At 1-0, there were no signs of Luton getting back into that game of football whatsoever. I know we did. I know with that set-piece goal, we did get back to 1-1. But for the rest of that first half at Lincoln, there was only one team scoring, and they certainly weren't wearing green shirts. That wasn't the case last night. If a team was going to score in the first half, in the last 25 minutes of that half, they were wearing green shirts. I can't remember Kearley making a save apart from that header that fell in his lap that you and I would have caught, really. And when we used the ball well, and we didn't use the ball nearly well enough in that first half, but when we did use it well, i.e. played into the midfield to turn and go at them, we got ourselves into really good positions. We had the one that Fanny had the shot that got pushed over the crossbar. Fanny got played in by Wells, I think it was, round the corner, and for the life of me, I don't know why he didn't shoot, but it ended up back at Nelson, who had a shot cleared off the line. When we used the centre of the pitch and the ground, we did get some joy. Now, okay, we were in the air way too much last night. Naki Wells is just not going to win headers at this level. That's just how it is. And I'm really certain that Matt's not telling them to lump it up long to Wells. That's just the reaction of a team or players who are not confident, or who are in a mindset where they don't want it to go wrong rather than take a risk for it to go right. Something along those lines. I don't think it comes from the manager. And he's not a stupid guy. He's not going to pump the ball up long to Wells against 2 beefcakes. I just don't believe it. But when we played it through the thirds, again, not often enough, but when we did, when Anderson went into Saville or went into Nelson or into Fanny and then out to Morris or out to Ali, we looked like we were going to cut them open at will. Now, the final decision making is still a huge thing at this club. But at least we're getting into those positions where the questions of our own players are being asked. Because we didn't at Lincoln.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the genuine gripes that I've been seeing, that we've got no killer instinct. And that's fair. That is true. And that was right up, and, even to the point just before Clark scored, and Kadua had just shot, fantastic shot, but it goes wide. Nordas has a header, goes wide, and there was another one. Clark had a shot, goes wide, and there's too much of that. But so that is a genuine gripe, isn't it? That they're not fashioning those clear-cut chances, and that's true. I think Blackpool actually fashioned more clear cuts. They still came out the same level of points, so I think you can hold two conflicting points at the same time and then both be true, is that they're not doing those things, but the result was okay. And so I don't know whether it's the reactionary stuff, I think, that catches your eye. And there's a lot of that about. And we know why. It's not just a Blackpool game, is it? It's this season, it's last season, it's power court, it's recruitment strategy, it's everything, isn't it? It's not spending money, it's everything. So, and it might even be more than that. It might be like beyond football. Like, football is the medium by which this happens, but it might be that, and you can well believe it, that things are bad out there in the world, and that does have an effect, I think.
Yeah, I mean, whatever it is, as I say, it wasn't as bad as Lincoln. Trust me, I was at both games, and it just wasn't. Unfortunately, we didn't get back into it in the first half, did we? Despite those two really good chances that we had. There was a lot of sideways passing. That was starting to get right on my brains when we were 1-0 down. I hate that. I'm not a patient person. I'm certainly not a patient person when it comes to football. I want it forward. I want us to score and everything else.
But that was the marked difference. But when those substitutes came on, they did that thing. So presumably they're not being told to pass it sideways, but it's safety first. And they're doing, it is boring. And you're thinking, how is that going to get anyone further up the pitch? And even when they do get slightly further up the pitch, the first instinct is to look back. So again, if that's a gripe of yours, it's obviously there. You can see it and it's annoying, but then it changes with the changes. And sometimes it's personnel, sometimes it's confidence of those people, sometimes it's just a change of impetus a little bit. But it did change, but it was pretty dire for quite a while.
Yeah, it was. I mean, listen, I've sat next to you a few times, haven't I? And I've said, the difference, you can tell the difference between senior players and young players at this football club by what they do with their first instinct. I've said it to you loads of times towards the end of last season, and it's still the case this season. You can tell who's new to this football club and who isn't just by the first instinct that they do. The new ones want to go forward, then retreat backwards. The old ones who have gone through the relegations, their first instinct is to look backwards and then see if they can go forwards. And that was very much the case last night, that's for sure. Second half comes along. I actually thought we started the second half okay. Nothing special or anything like that, but we were getting the ball out to Millie Ali, and he seemed to be attacking the right back, and everything was they had to change their right back, didn't they, after about 10 minutes. Long injury. I didn't see what happened. I just saw he got stretchered off. And Millie Ali was attacking the new right back in the second half. There was one point, sort of 30 seconds before they scored, where he turned him and was just ready to go into space, and then for some god unknown reason, he came back and wanted to take him on again and lost the ball. Then we got the ball back to Millie Ali, and for the goal, he loses the ball in a key area, and there's a lot wrong with the goal. There's a lot wrong with the goal, but, some of it is circumstance, some of it is unfortunate. Ali tries to go past the midfielder nicks the ball off him, but at the same time that Ali tries to go past the midfielder, Christ has seen that he's got space in front of him, and if Ali goes past the midfielder, he's there for the pass, but of course he's further forward than he would want to be when Ali loses the ball. This all really revolves around Ali losing the ball, doesn't it? If he doesn't lose the ball, we're fine. And then one pass later and Hamilton's just clean through on goal, and we're not catching up with him. The only guy from there who was going to catch up with him was Morris, but he'd already made the run in case Ali beat the guy. Kearley's come out and closed it down. He's on a hide into nothing by that point, isn't he? I think Hamilton's second touch was one of those that it was just far enough away from him to tempt Kearley in, but not far enough away from him for Kearley to get there. And he finishes it well, doesn't he? 2-0, and then there was a lot of doom and gloom in the away end, and I get it. At that point, at 2-0, I thought, this is a real opportunity gone, because they always looked there for the taking for me, Blackpool, even when we weren't playing particularly great, because they didn't look any great shakes themselves. But at 2-0, then you're like, oh, it's going to be a long journey home.
Yeah, at that point, I was with them. If that was the sentiment, then I thought that's it. That's killed that, because we don't score a lot of goals. That's the problem, and we hadn't really looked like scoring goals. Although we fashioned chances, but hadn't really looked like scoring goals, which was a problem. And it's this thing. Whenever there's a a player that needs a little leg up to get their season going or change their fortunes, as in CJ Hamilton, he'd not scored all season, then he gets 2. And Luton have been doing that for a while. It's not just this season. You can sort of almost, you bet your house on it sometimes. And it comes from, an attacking position as well with us like around the edge of their 18-yard box, and then it's just so quick and then done. I think, people are looking at Ali for that, and yeah, he does lose the ball. And I think what you've probably seen here is that you've got on the other side Shaden Morris, who comes on. His only instinct is to go past the player, and when he gets the space, he'll try and deliver a cross. And like you say with Ali at the moment, that's not always a given. He's not as quick as Morris, but then he's trying to beat men 2 or 3 times, and the chance goes, and it's not working for him at the moment. And whether that means that's a change in the next game, I guess we can discuss that in the next podcast. But it isn't. He's not had the greatest of seasons. He's not like the player that was almost our only hope towards the end of last season, rattling in the goals. He's not that player. And so where he's gone is a bit of a mystery. We hope we can get it back, but at the minute, not so much.
Yeah, where he's gone, he's been messed about, hasn't he? Messed about at wing back too often, having to defend and being caught in 2 situations, hasn't he? If he gets a regular run on that left wing, finds a goal or something and gets his confidence up, we'll soon have the Millie Ali that we had last season. I'm sure of that. He hasn't gone anywhere. It's not like anything's happened. He's just literally been playing left wing back too often and has forgotten his primary role in the side, which is to go past the opposition and get the ball in the box. And yeah, he got caught out. Yeah, and lots of people are saying, well, why were we defending so high? We were 1-0 down at the time. That's why we were defending high. We were trying to squeeze the ball in and trying to pen them in. I've no problem with the defensive side of that goal. The fact that Christ made a run for Ali, should he have beaten the man to get the ball out wide, and then hopefully he'd have put the ball in. I've no problem with any of that. Where it broke down was Ali lost the ball when runners had gone past him, and it wouldn't have mattered who it was. You can't lose the ball when runners go past you. When runners go past you, you have to make 100% sure you keep the ball, even if you end up having to go backwards as a result of that. Just turning the ball over was not good. It brought about change. There's a lot of people who Matt Bloomfield seems to have to win over at the moment, which is fair enough. You're more than entitled to that opinion. However, doesn't make you any less of a person to give credit where it's due, whatever your views are with Bloomfield. And he did make 3 changes straight away, and they did work. Kadir coming on was one of them. Jordan Clark coming on was another. They both scored. Bode came on in amongst that triple substitution as well. Initially, I was like, why are we doing like-for-like subs? But to be fair to him, he's got it absolutely spot on. Clark made an almost immediate impact. I think you mentioned it earlier. He was the first one to have a shot. Kadir picked up the ball sort of on the halfway line and ran with it. Got that shot away from 25 yards or so. And then we had the Nordas header from the corner. He's got to score that. There's no 2 ways about it. Right in front of goal, 4 yards out. You have to score that. And if he does score that, I think we win the game, because it came early enough that I was convinced. I said in the instant reaction, I was convinced at 2-0 that the game wasn't gone, albeit I couldn't see it coming, that if we got 1 goal, I thought we'd get a second, because at 2-0, they just changed completely. Hamilton went off, which meant they had no threat that was causing us all sorts of problems. And then a little bit later, Bowler, who wasn't doing a great deal in the game, but he was keeping Bramall from going right down to the byline, Bruce took him off, and from that moment, Bramall was up and down in front of the Luton fans like he was playing left wing, and the game just changed. They never got out. We hemmed them in. It was just whether we were going to run out of time. Well, we didn't. The Clark goal was lucky. Of course, it's lucky. But in the first half, we got into so many positions and passed it rather than shoot. There's an example, Jimbo. You buy a ticket to the raffle, you might come out with a prize.
Yeah, and it just takes that little bit of a spark sometimes. It was fortunate, and if we're saying, well, we've got a penalty and a fortunate deflection, well, sometimes them's the breaks, aren't they? You've got to take what you get, but you don't get it if you don't shoot, and there has been enough of that. But I think I heard somebody say they're trying to score the perfect goal too often, and sometimes you can well see it.
That was my view in the first half.
Yeah,
there was a couple of 3 times that Ali, Nelson in particular were around the box and looked for another pass. Just put your foot through it. You're in League One. It doesn't have to be special, the shots to get past goalkeepers in this league. We saw that at Burton, right? The first 2 goals weren't special, but they got through bodies, or the first one got through the goalkeeper, a la Blackpool's last night, and the second one, Millie Ali's hit it through a pack of bodies. It's gone into the corner. Like I say, you buy a ticket, might be your day now and again.
Is that a confidence thing, though? I think it probably feeds into it.
I hope it's a confidence thing. I really hope we're not being told we have to score the perfect goal, because we can't get into the areas where to score the perfect goal, because it's not sticking to the centre forward right now. And we'll discuss the centre forward, I'm sure, when we go to do the Stevenage preview. But that was an immediate, obvious change, wasn't it? It was the second bunch of changes that brought Nordos on, put Bode wide and put Nordos through the middle. And from there, the game just changed completely. I mean, Nordos had the header from the corner. There were 2 more brilliant crosses that went in, one that Nordos didn't quite get on the end of, and one that he was about to tap in, but for some amazing clearance that came about from the defender. Again, that was all Bramall doing the heavy yards down that side, taking the fullback away so that Kadir had half of Blackpool to run into. And we get the goal back. You look at the clock, 78. You know there's 5 minutes of injury time because they've been faffing. So you've got the better part of 20 minutes to go and get your equaliser. And we did. We pushed. We brought Jake Richards on at this point. I mean, that kid's got a first touch that if you just want to wine and dine and take it home to your parents, Jimbo, is just like, it's an unbelievable touch that he's got. And it's just a shame that we've got an avalanche of options in those 2 forward midfield options, because he looks a player who could do some right good stuff for us, but I understand why others are being preferred at the minute. I don't think that'll be the case for very long.
At the minute, I don't think you can really make a strong case for maintaining that for much longer. He looks really good. There's no question about that. And whether that's just, he's young and there's a cameo and the players that he's taken or replaced have not been pulling up trees, that's a case for that. But every time I've seen him, he looks livelier on the half turn and keen to get his head up straight away and find a way through the lines. And that, like we're talking earlier, if you're passing sideways all the time and people get frustrated by it, he's not going to do that. Gadea the same. He did the same sort of thing. Just the first instinct is to do that. And for me, if really, I'd rather you should look at what went wrong in that first 30 minutes and then the first part of the second half. Sure, you should. But more of the analysis for me, if I was them, would be what went right within that last 20 minutes, because there were parts of it that felt like the old Luton, which is what people would want, as what I want to see. That's what, and it caused them no end of trouble and no end of problems. And yeah, if we had 5 minutes extra, we might have got a winner. We even had shots after the equaliser that nearly went in, but the Bode one. But I think that's if you're looking for a blueprint of how you'd want to play, I'd go for that and try and extrapolate that from 20 minutes to the whole game. And I think that's where I'd put the work.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, there's no doubt the last 20 minutes was pretty enjoyable. As I say, Richards, he was pulling the strings, wasn't he, in behind the striker, and he'd either play into the striker, he'd play wide. But the thing I like about Richards, Jimbo, is apart from his first touch, which is just a dream. I mean, there was even that one where he fell on his arse and still kept the ball, wasn't there, late on in the second half. What I like about him, when he passes the ball, he don't stop. He don't stand still and admire his pass and think, oh, that was a good pass.
Which is what you should do anyway. Yeah, I mean, I got shouted at that when I was a kid and not playing professional football.
But there are still 1 or 2 players in this team that do pass the ball and then want a breather or don't show for it again. But he passes and will go into a space where the pass back is a dangerous one, not necessarily for him to get his own shot away, but for him to then get the ball out wide or something like that. You sit there watching him and you're like, he's 28. He can't be 18.
I can't see a good reason why he can't now feature more prominently. I said in the previous podcast, I thought an outside bet would be him for Nelson if Nelson was the man further up the pecking order. But Nelson has been quite subdued for a few games now, and I think probably if you're going to make changes and you're going to be ruthless, as much as I want to see him succeed, maybe it's Richard's time to have a go. And, the more I think about it, I can't make a reasonable excuse as to why you wouldn't do that.
Yeah, there's no point in having competition for places if someone's giving you competition and you're not able to get his place, is there? So, yeah, no, I'm kind of with you with regards to that. Thanks for everyone who got in contact with the comments and everything from the instant reaction. I did only see the penalty incident once. There are posts in the way at Blackpool and things like that.
And he didn't have a black eye, by the way.
I didn't have a black eye, no. Funnily enough, in bloody city of illuminations, they sent us out into an alleyway that was darker than the ghost train up at Pleasure Beach. So I didn't really realise it was quite that dark until I watched the video back. But by then, I was halfway down the M6 and I weren't turning around to record another one. So, yeah, no, as you can see, nothing wrong with my eyes. Well, nothing wrong with the colour of them anyway. It's plenty wrong with the rest of it. I've seen the penalty back now. It is clearly a penalty. I can see that. I still don't really. Well, if I was Steve Bruce, and I don't know why he's moaning about the foul, but if I was Steve Bruce, I'd be hacked off that we was allowed to get the shot away, and then it goes back to the penalty.
I mean, there's something wrong with Steve Bruce's eyes if he doesn't think that that's a penalty. It's unbelievable. He even talked about seeing it again. I mean, if you don't think that that's a penalty, I mean,
yeah. As soon as I saw it back, I was like, oof. I've made a bit of a mug of myself there, but you only get to see it once live, don't you? I did try and rush Sky Go on the phone, but the phone weren't having any of it, so I didn't get to see it. But it was a penalty. It was a good move that led up to the penalty. I mean, the Kadir cameo was just incredibly good, particularly when you feature that he wasn't on the half of the pitch that we've seen him. He was on the other side to that, and we'll obviously come on to whether he starts over Millie Ali in the next podcast. So don't come at us in this one, guys. We're literally just reflecting on this. But he got the foul. He celebrated the foul, as I said. He celebrated the penalty. I wasn't dissing him to the person who thought that I was. I wasn't. I just never seen someone celebrate winning a penalty like that before, because you have still got to score it. And then to his credit, he went and snatched the ball, said, "This is mine." He's obviously got a bit about him, hasn't he? He must have a bit about him, Jimbo, because he captained West Ham's youth team. And I said, that's not your average academy, is it, West Ham? You see the players that come out of that academy. That's a strong side. So he's captained them. He's obviously got a bit about him. Stepped up. Keeper's gone the wrong way. He's put it in. And then he celebrated again. But then he realised very quickly, hold on, we can still go and win this. And they're all back to the halfway line. And we nearly did win it. And I think you said a minute ago, 5 minutes more, I could see us winning. There was certainly, from 2-0, from the changes to all those subs, once we got it back to 2-1, there was only one side who was going to go on and improve their result from that point, and it was Luton. I took 2-2, as I said in the reaction. From 2-0 down, you don't ever turn your nose up at a 2-2, especially when the equaliser's that late. But yeah, that Bode shot, when it hit the defender, I was right behind that. I thought, God, that's coming down just at the right time. It just went just on top of the net. It was a bit annoying, but we had a good flurry. We had a good go. But you know what, Jimbo? Someone's messaged me on social media and they're absolutely right. That fight, that never say die attitude, that we haven't lost this game. Apart from Stoke away last season, the last time we saw that was the Crystal Palaces, the Bournemouths in the Premier League. If we've got that back, for as crap as this game of football was in large parts, that's definitely something to pick up, put in the bottle and carry forward with, because there's going to be lots of times this season that we need that, particularly when we go away from home. We've kind of played the lower teams away from home, haven't we? Peterborough, Burton. I mean, Blackpool won't be down at the bottom of the table for very long, but they are at the minute. So if we can bottle that up, yeah, we want to be so much better for the first 70 minutes. Of course we do, and I hope in time we will be. But that's never a bad thing to have.
I don't think so, and I think that's where it comes from, the mindset of how you view the game. And you can be all doom and gloom about it if you want, and there are plenty that are, and large parts of it were, and you want to see it better, and we want to see a perfect performance, which probably won't ever come because we're in the third division of English football. But the ending of it was far more positive, and I think where seasons have turned and can turn, I'm not saying this is exactly going to happen because we have the last 2 years of disappointment on the back of us, so always chasing our tail really. But you saw Blackpool's reaction to that fight back, and they were like, considering how their season's gone so far, they were like, oh God, here we go again. Whereas this was a new thing for Luton, certainly this term, and which is why it's nowhere near like the Lincoln game, which was, well, we're not dead, let's fight. let's show some desire, let's change it up a bit and go for it. And, however you want to say the goals came about, they did because of that pressure and that more forward impetus. So that can change a lot of things. And if you're looking to take some confidence out of something, which you can do if you play bad but still win, you can take something out of that and take it onto the next game, because we're definitely going to need it against Stevenage. That's going to be a hell of a game. They arguably going to be the favourites for that, and that probably won't please people, but that's where we are in this season. But you can take something out of that 20 minutes, how they attacked it, and try and move it on to the rest of the campaign, because you can't say that they're not fighting for each other after that.
No, you can't. No, and that was the thing. And they got a standing ovation at the end, Jimbo. And listen, did they get that if they don't score the penalty? Of course not. The results change everything, don't they? But they did. They got a standing ovation because people appreciated that they didn't go under. It's not a phrase I like, but it's a phrase that Matt used in his post-match, so I'll use it. They didn't go under. We've referenced the Lincoln game half a dozen times already. When we got back to 1-1 against Lincoln, we did go under. We shot ourselves in the foot again. On this case, and I know there was a lot less time, but on this occasion, we got the ball back to the centre circle and we got it back in their box. What was it, 3 corners after we scored the equaliser? All of which were threatening. The goalkeeper punched one out to the edge of the box, which led to the Bode shot. And I think another one just missed Nordos. We wanted to go and win the game. Now, had we have lost 3-2 in that situation, all sorts of pelters would have come down. But we want to win games of football.
Yeah, but comparatively, the Lincoln one, when you got to 1-1, I said at the time, I thought we should probably just shut up shop and try to say, we got away with this, let's take a point. But after that, Lincoln were the better team, and they deserved those goals because they were the better team, whereas this time, it was Luton. And it was all Luton for that last 20 minutes. They didn't really have a sniff, Blackpool. Can't remember anything where I was ever biting my nails on that one. So, it shows improvement. It's not the total improvement. It's not going to flip a switch and suddenly go from, a disappointing start to the season to world beaters. It's not going to happen like that, but can do it gradually. And maybe that's how it would have to be, but it's there. There was something there to have a platform for the next game.
And of course, you've got to remember as well, we've got 12 players out injured. Ted Mengi added himself to the injury list ahead of this game. Obviously, Jordan Clark come off it, so it's still 12 players out injured. It's not like we're doing this with a perfectly fit squad, which is going to be tested in a 3-game week. And we'll come on to the Stevenage game shortly when we do the next podcast. But, from what we've got, from where we were at that Lincoln game, and we should keep referencing that Lincoln game because that was as low as it can ever get. We can't allow it to get any lower than that. We've put in 2 performances, 45 minutes against Doncaster, which was really good football. A second half against Doncaster where we've ground it out and shown that over my dead body are we going to not win this game. And then we've, struggled in the first 20, 25 minutes, shot ourselves in the foot with the second goal. But we've had enough about us to say, no, we still think we can get something from this game. There is still something from us in this game. We haven't helped ourselves by any stretch of the imagination with the goals we've conceded, but we'll go and bail them out. We'll go and get the 2 goals. We'll build on that. 4 points from 2 games. You take that from any 2-game block at any stage in the season. And we've got something to go at. There's a lot of people that are saying, well, those 2 goals just papered over the cracks. To be fair to Sam from 3 counties, he asked Matt that, and Sam would have interviewed him countless times because Sam covers Wickham for 3 counties. And he actually said to Matt, what would you say to the fans out there who were saying that it's papered over the cracks? And it took Matt back a little bit, because I'm assuming he wasn't aware of people were saying that. It didn't paper over no cracks, Jimbo, because we know the weakness. We know we haven't got a right back. You tell the world, we're not giving a secret away. The whole world knows that we're playing a centre-back at right-back. So we're going to concede goals down that side. We can't do anything about that until a right-back comes back, whether that's Hakeem Adoffin, whether that's Izzy Jones, whether that's Rue Walters, whoever the hell it may be, or they find a free agent in international break that's coming up.
Hopefully it won't be Izzy Jones when he comes back, because he'll be a winger now in this current formation.
I've no problem if Izzy Jones...
Doffin or Walters, hopefully.
I've no problem if Izzy Jones plays right back and we just have a right good go. But yeah, one of those two will be absolutely fine. But until then, we know we are going to be vulnerable down our right-hand side of our defence. We've just got to grin and bear it and hope that oppositions don't rinse us down there to the extent that Blackpool had a decent left winger and, you know, he chose last night to score 2 goals. But the rest of the game, apart from the tippy-tappy round the back, which was starting to get right on everyone's nerves, understandably, if we're doing that at 0-0 away from home to quieten the crowd and get a foothold in the game, I don't have a problem with it. When you're 1-0 down, it just looks bad. It's boring. It's not really the football that Luton want to play. I don't think it's the football that Matt wants to play. It's certainly not the football that he talks about playing anyway. But the longer the game went on, the more we got to grips with it. Yes, the substitutes helped. Again, you got to give Matt credit for that. He saw the players who weren't performing. Millie Ali in particular was standing out. And the ones that he could address, and there was a couple of defenders who weren't performing, but he didn't know no one on the bench who could play anything in defence, so he couldn't do anything about that. The ones that he saw that weren't performing, Ali and Wells in particular, had really quiet games. He had them off at the earliest opportunity, and the people that he put on in those positions made a major impact in the game. And for the first time in a while, Jim, but I don't always listen to manager interviews, so I don't quote each, but when you've got a 4-hour journey home, you've got to fill some of the minutes, haven't you? I listened to Matt's interview, and for the first time in a while, the game I saw in front of me was the game he described. So I don't really have a huge problem with him last night. Do I still think he can get better out of the players that he's got at his disposal? Yes, I do. But last night, he changed the game at 2-0 down. He got something out of the game. He built on Saturday, where he's gone to the back 4 and pleased everyone's wishes to go to the back 4. We do look better in this back 4. Even last night, we looked better in the back 4. We had more midfield players around their box than we ever had in the other formation. We're going to score more goals in this formation. I know they're not coming yet. I think that's a personnel issue rather than a formation issue. But yeah, I sat there, I listened to Matt's interview on both 3 counties and the one that the club put up. There was about 4 minutes of each. And he described the game that I watched. Crap to start off with. Made the changes. The changes brought about the extra energy. We probed and we got our reward.
Yeah, I agree. I thought so too. And I think maybe that shows a degree of learning for him. He's still young coach, and he said that Lincoln game was the lowest ebb of his managerial career. And you could see that in the interview after that game, and then the pre-match one that we had following that, where people were saying he gave sort of short answers, which he did because he endured that week. But the Doncaster game obviously showed some learning. And then this is a different type of learning where you've got to fashion some resilience out of a bad situation, some of which you created, not necessarily just him, that I'm talking Luton created. And they've come back from 2-0 down, which just wouldn't have happened. When he talked about going under, that's what Lincoln was. And Lincoln was a return to the bad days of last term. And we didn't want to see that again. Well, this wasn't that. It wasn't Lincoln, and it wasn't a return to any of those days. It was, as I say, when you are facing a beating there, which you have fashioned enough chances to get something out of, but looked like they weren't going to get anything, and then you get a point out of it, that's a good point.
Yeah, I was walking out of Bloomfield Road last night, kind of, thought we'd won. You know, at that Stoke game last season aside, every game we drew under Matt was turgid and boring, really, or we dominated, it should have won, and it felt like a loss. This one certainly felt like a win, and when you've just had a win and you get a game like that, that's 2 positive outcomes, not necessarily positive 90 minutes, but positive outcomes from a position where we'd lost 4 of the last 6. You know, we are we impressing? Are we entertaining? Are we everything that we hope that we will be 30 games down the line? No, we're not. But from the starting point of where we've started from in these last 2 games, I think the improvement from that Lincoln game is clear for all to see. There is still a lot more improvement to come. there are still people to work out who to play in the certain positions whilst we're waiting for players to come back. Listen, this all changes up front when Ali Al-Hamadi's back. He's absolutely ideal for that centre forward role in this formation, but he's not there yet. We've tried Nakeem Wells for 45 minutes on Saturday. It looked okay, but the other times he's been on the pitch, it's not looked great.
It didn't work.
The ball isn't sticking to him at all, is it? And the players can't run off of him because they don't know if it's going to stick or not. When Nordos came on, it looked like it was going to stick an awful lot more.
Yeah.
Richards was a lot closer to him as well, which helped. That would maybe be something that we have to look at going forward. Millie Ali's form down the left is a bit of a concern. We've got options to sort that out. That's not a problem. And then the other issue is the right back, and we've just done that to death anyway. So we're on the up. Let's use my ladder analogy again. We ain't fell off it. We ain't gone up no rungs from Saturday, but we ain't fell off it. And at 2-0 down, that could have got nasty. It could have. It could have got very nasty. Last season when we went 2-0 down, 4 was coming off the back of it in next to no time. They were never going to score again. It was, like I said, it was just whether we had enough time to get the chances that we needed to score the goals. And yeah, okay, it took a penalty. Who cares? Who cares that it took a penalty? We're not going to get penalties all season. I get that.
We've got the most penalties in the division at the moment, and that says something because you're in the box affecting the game. You don't get them out of nothing usually.
No.
So that's useful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I can't remember that many penalties we got last season because we weren't in the bloody box.
No, that's right.
So, and if you're team paper over the cracks, then that's a valid position. I won't argue against you, but papering over the cracks and you're not playing very, very well, you're in 7th position in the division. We want to be higher, of course, because we now have the end goal of promotion. The very minimum must be playoffs, so you're not quite in there, which you could have if you got the win. And then the ultimate goal is automatic promotion. So we're not there yet, but you're not playing well. People aren't saying that the performance are very good, that we can't hit a barn door with a banjo and that sort of stuff. And we haven't got players who are playing in the right position, and some aren't playing well. And this man's the worst player ever, and that man's the solution this game, and they're not the solution in that game. But we're in 7th. And, you know, if we're not going to get any worse and there's only improvements to come, and it's a big if, then the only way is up from there. But it is a big if, I understand.
Yeah, it is a big if. But here's the devil's advocate if, isn't it? If we beat Stevenage on Saturday, we're 3 points behind them and they're second. And we flattered to deceive so much. I can't even get my words out. I was out back late this morning. We flattered to deceive so much that come Saturday tea time, we could be 3 points off second. It's not the worst thing in the world. Look, we all want to be playing like we did in the Premier League. Jimbo mentioned it 15 minutes ago. We're a League 3 football team, 3rd tier football team. You're not going to get that. What we need is to improve on each game. We need to stop this banging the ball long to Nakeem Wells up against 2 beefcakes. There's no future in that whatsoever. But midfield were showing last night. Start using the midfield. Saville, the amount of times he went in between Anderson and Naismith to try and get the ball and they just weren't looking at him was, it was starting to pull my hair out, let alone his. And then Fanny was showing an awful lot of the time. It just doesn't get the ball. Trust in these midfielders. That's what they're in the team for.
One gripe, though, that the set pieces were pretty much universally awful.
There was one corner that was still making its way down the seafront now, wasn't there? And yeah, they were. And that's definitely somewhere to improve for sure, because he's got a good delivery, Saville. It's not that he can't deliver.
No, he's got a few assists, hasn't he? But on that night, it was, and it wasn't just him, but his set pieces were either overhit or underhit first man, but then cross after cross was going well beyond the last man at the back stick, and that adds to the frustration because if you're creating those spaces, but then the final ball is not good, which it wasn't, and that's been another frustrating feature for far too long as well. That the final ball, you can talk about all that good play in like the midfield up to the edge of the area, but then it all fizzles out.
It's the decision making, isn't it? The decision making needs to be positive. It needs to be confident. It needs to be decisive. things like that. Yeah, you're right about some of the delivery, but then on the flip side of that, Saville put one in 2 or 3 minutes before we scored the penalty. There was a beautiful ball for someone to attack at the back post, and they all just stood and watched it, and you're like pulling your hair out, because if someone had attacked it, they either had a shot at goal, or hopefully someone would have followed it in the other side, could have rolled it across goal, and it would have had a tap in. So not all the balls are bad, are they? Sometimes the players make good balls look bad.
That is where, you know, an absolute goal poacher would thrive, and there isn't one in this team at the moment, because Wells is not very prolific. He's usually has been the foil for another player. Nordos new to the division, although he's scored, he's a joint top goal scorer now, I think, yeah, with Kader. You know, until we get that player, and we hope that our Hamady is, then you're still looking for that final killer touch in the box of those crosses. But if you don't keep doing the crosses until that player comes in, then when he comes in, you're not well oiled in that particular routine, are you? So it might be a little bit of a catch-22 for until the personnel comes in that can change it.
Yeah, it's another thing that can improve naturally, that's for sure. I think Clark's top scorer. I think he's got 3. Peterborough, Lincoln, and last night.
That's correct. Sorry, Jordan.
Yeah. Yeah, don't want to...
unless it gets taken off him and it goes to...
It was on target, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
I couldn't tell from my side. We would have decided the goal.
Yeah, no, the keeper had it well covered. He was going to save it easy, wasn't he?
Yeah, but they usually say if it's on target, it's the shooter's goal. Because the defender don't want it, does he? So, fair enough. We're not going to keep droning on too much longer. Cohen Bramall. Mm-hmm. First time we saw him for 90 minutes last night in the league. Can't remember if he did 90 against Barnet. It's too much water's passed under the bridge to remember that. Like what I see. So considering we've been told all season long we ain't got no fullbacks, pretty sure I saw a fullback in front of me then, because he was up and down that line like a good. And like I say, once Bowler went off and he saw that nothing was coming the other way, he didn't bother with the defending. He just kept on going forward, and that was the right thing to do. But Bowler wasn't an influence on the game, and there is a footballer in Bowler. We saw it in the glimpses that we saw of him last season. He kept him quiet and tidy on the ball, didn't really do anything wrong. He's got a mean cross, by the way, Bramall, as well. He put in a particularly delicious cross in the second half. I like what I see, Jimbo. For the first 90 minutes, there's definitely something good there.
Yeah, I think we've talked up his various cameos when he's come on as well. You know, he is a left back. He said that himself. But if they can expand it to him being more of a wing back / fullback, because it's not going to be a wing back anymore, because we're not playing that 3. Hopefully, we never play that 3 with the wing backs again. Then yeah, he did look useful. He's done it before though, hasn't he? And he got out of this division with Portsmouth, didn't he? So. I think because he came on a free, and people were clamouring for all the money in the world to be spent on everyone, and you know, assemble a team of Galacticos. Nobody said that. I'm just making it up, and that didn't happen. So maybe he got overlooked a bit, but I think Andy took some time to get up to speed because he didn't have a pre-season, obviously. So, but yeah, I'm reasonably pleased with that. He looked to take the man on. No fancy stuff, just get a yard and deliver a cross. And more often than not, they found their way in the box. Whether they found their way to a player is probably more down to the position of the people in the box. But yeah, something to work on.
Or for the first 70 minutes, the height of the person in the box. Yeah, definitely. And the last person we need to touch on, obviously we've already touched on Jake Richards. The last person we need to touch on, given that you're still president of his fan club, is Gideon Kadir. I mean, he was the game changer. I know Clark had a growing impact on the game and things like that, but yeah, for me it was Kadir, because you know, we do work an awful lot of our attacks out to the left-hand side. Again, something that hopefully in time will change, and we'll start spreading it out a little bit more, particularly now Morris has started to start games. But he was a game changer, wasn't he? He could have scored with that long-range effort, drove at his man, didn't have to go past him 5 or 6 times. Once he was past him, he was away and gone, and then did something useful with it. Got into the box, got clattered for the penalty, put the penalty away with aplomb. You know, again, we'll do the should he start for the Stevenage game, but he has certainly put his hand up and said, I'm worthy of starting.
Absolutely, he did, yeah. At the time I was cursing that the shot didn't go in because he's run from deep. It was almost a central midfield role, that one. He ran right up the middle, and for a while I kidded myself on that he was playing there. But
I thought it was Fanner for a minute because it was the position where he was going to he usually picks the ball up from, and he just drove with so much directness. So I thought, that's Fanner who's doing that. And then I opened my eyes, it's Kadir doing that.
Yeah, well, this is the thing with being direct and playing forward. If you're playing sideways and it's tippy-tappy, your opponents can get enough time to set themselves in whatever formation they're trying to. If you've got a player that's going to do what Kadir did and run at them, then it's one of the age-old, cliches of football, isn't it? Defenders don't like you running at them, especially if you've got pace, and it showed with that one. So, we were thinking he was going to be, the foil for Morris and Morris the foil for him, whichever way you wanted to do it, and that would be okay. But if you can play both sides, then we've got competition both sides, and then we don't have to stick with players that aren't playing to the best of their abilities yet, and he can come in as well. And you've got enough wide men there to play the system that we want to play. And so it's a real positive that he's done that. He's got 2 goals now. He's not shy in that. The fact that he stepped up, we won the penalty, and it was a clear penalty. And then I didn't have him down as taking the penalty, and he had the confidence to do that at a young age. You're right, he was the captain of West Ham Youth, so he's obviously got some leadership abilities as well, and you need that. And I'm all for it. Yeah, I'm well in his fan club at the moment.
You are, yeah. You're certainly more in his fan club than the 2 gentlemen who were behind me and Naki Wells' fan club last night. I mean, he could have saved poverty last night and they would have still found something to complain about. Listen, it wasn't Wells' greatest game, was it? And I'm sure he'll be the first to admit that. He's much better than that, as a few are on the pitch. Ultimately, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't fantastic. But we went away from home and we didn't lose a game of football. And I'm of the old adage, you win your home games, you draw your away games, and generally in this world you get promoted. And I know we haven't won all of our home games, but we've won a few away games to level it out. It could have been a lot worse. It could have been a lot worse going there, and it sure as hell could have been a lot worse at 2-0. So a little bit of credit is due for the boys sticking in, not losing the game, turning it round, and giving us something to build on again for Saturday.
And so the question that you asked at the very beginning, deserved or not deserved, what are you saying?
Yeah, I thought we deserved a point. At no stage in that game did I think we didn't deserve something out of the game. Yes, we defended horrifically for the first 20 minutes of both halves. And yes, we have got so many problems that we all know about. They're not hidden problems. They're not suddenly appearing. We know that we've got these problems. We just don't have the personnel at the minute to fix all of those problems.
But with a whole other 12-man team to come back eventually.
Absolutely, yeah. But the times that we were in good spots in the game, there were a lot more of them from us. We looked a lot more threatening in those moments than what they did. And I'm not a stats man necessarily, but the stats do tell you that we had more shots at goal, we had a higher XG last night, and all of this, that, and the other
from possession, everything, yeah,
from away from home. So yeah, I thought we were value for the point. Did I see it coming at 2-0? No, although I certainly did once they started retreating and looked like they didn't know how to win. And we go again. Let's hope we're not in a position where we're 2-0 down in the next game. But if we are, if we get behind them, we know they've got it within them to stay in the game and get back and get something out of it. It's a trait that we might need again sometime this season. It's not all going to be smelling of roses, is it?
I agree. And you're going to have to come to terms with this, I think, that you're not going to play good every game. And you could say we haven't played good for most games. True. But look, we're reasonably okay positioned in the league. Sometimes you can win games when you're not played well. Sometimes you'll play well and you'll lose. We all know this. We've all watched football. All possibilities can happen in a game of football. It's not going to be perfect, I don't think. I think it's a mindset thing now. We've got to try and there's no point trying to gloss over or sugarcoat some of the bad bits, and I don't think we have. But when the good bits result in good things, which did, got a point out of what I thought was not possible 60, 65 minutes in, then I think you have to say that they deserved it. And that's a good point.
Because ultimately we want to see good things. So when we do see them, there's no point in saying that we don't, because we're there to support the team, aren't we? And that's how it is. It's a cracking away day, Jimbo. I went up there early and spent the day up in Blackpool. Had a cider or three in the pub and, walked back down, past the pier and the arcades, got fish and chips and all that. It's a cracking away day. Yeah,
you didn't get chased from bar to bar like I did once in the only bar brawl I've ever been involved in, because the locals didn't like a bunch of soft southerners up there.
No, I think it must have been the look on your face, because no, we were absolutely fine. And loads of people in the pub recognised me and sort of said how much they enjoyed the podcast or had listened to the podcast on the way up. So really, really appreciate that. And hope you all enjoyed your day and your evening in the end. And onwards to Stevenage. No correct scores for this game, which was a surprise. And thank you to everyone who's pointed out that I said 2-2 in the last two games and didn't say 2-2 for this one. Think that's got a law's title, isn't it? Murphy's Law, I think they call it, or sod if you're of an older age. But them's the breaks. Unfortunately, nothing for me, nothing for you, Jimbo.
And so it goes on.
Does indeed, yeah. I've not got the leaderboard updated. I got in way too late this morning and I've had to do some work. But what we'll do, we'll get that updated after the Stevenage game. And then during the international break, I'll get the full leaderboard up on the Trust website so that you can all see exactly where you are after what will be a quarter of the season. Thanks to everyone who continues to come up to either myself or Jimbo and say how much that you're enjoying the podcasts. It's really great to hear you're the reason why we do the podcast. So we really, really do appreciate all of your support. And thanks for watching or listening, however it is that you've consumed this podcast. Thanks also to the folks at Marsh House, the proud new home of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, and to Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music. Till next time, which will be a preview of what people are going to call a derby against Stevenage. We won't, but some will. From Jimbo and myself, that's more like it, Town. Bit of fight.